Alright, everybody, welcome back to another forecast discussion on my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about potential for severe weather for several days across portions of the southern United States. But first, I just want to tell you guys, I have a storm chasing video that's going to be coming out on January 1st at 2 o'clock. Please be there. This took over a month to make, so I hope you guys really like it. Now, let's get into what the Storm Prediction Center has first. So, looking at the day one severe weather outlook, let's go to the southern United States and look at this thing. So, we have a day one marginal risk of severe weather across eastern Louisiana into southern Mississippi and Alabama. Now, I think this risk is going to be mainly just Alabama, like really mainly right here, as the QLCS has moved out of Mississippi and Louisiana. But Alabama and Florida still have a low end risk of severe weather today, including tornado potential and wind potential. Tomorrow, across the southeast, another severe weather risk is possible from places like looks like Pensacola, Florida, near Montgomery, eastward to Columbia, South Carolina, including places in like Macon, Georgia as well. So a large marginal tomorrow, wind and tornadoes are going to be the main hazards again. Now looking at day 4, we can see we have a 30% risk of severe weather placed across the Ark-La-Tex region, including northeast Texas, northwest Louisiana, western Mississippi, and a lot of Arkansas. This is the same area that's been battered time and time again. This time, though, it looks like the warm sector is going to include farther north in areas like southern Indiana, southern Illinois, southern Missouri, potentially a little bit further north as well, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, central Mississippi, into lots of Louisiana, portions of Texas, Oklahoma, and more of Arkansas as well. Now, let's look at the next day as well, and then we'll go to the northern sector. So we have another severe weather risk on Tuesday, January 3rd. This is going to be across the eastern Louisiana, this area, and kind of eastern Louisiana, northeastern Louisiana right there. Through kind of central southern Mississippi, through a majority of Alabama, including Birmingham, Huntsville, Montgomery, Mobile, into extreme western Georgia nearing the Noonan area. So, a pretty large area on Tuesday as well. Let's go back and look at the central United States NWS region. If this will load, this site's a little bit slow to load sometimes, so apologies. Um, you can see here places like Paducah, Springfield, maybe almost toward Joplin are included in the 15% risk for Monday. And this goes from Monday at 6 a.m. till Tuesday at 6 a.m. Now here we go. Let's start off with the GFS and let's observe some differences. So we can see here we have this system that's going to kind of plow through the area. You can see here at first we're going to see those stronger storms there as well, and we could probably talk about those first actually, and probably should talk about those first. These started off across kind of the Gulf Coast. Looks like they're going to die off, maybe reform today, and then tomorrow looks like a new batch of storms forms in Mississippi in the early morning hours. It pushes eastward. If we take a look at the environment here, this is a sounding plot. We can see here there is very little instability between the red and white dotted lines. There's not that much, so this is going to be a very low severe risk. There is a lot of wind shear observed within the hodograph, with there being probably around 60 knots of 6 kilometer shear, 60 to 70 there. So that's pretty solid, but you're not going to have much instability until these storms enter Georgia, where if you take a sounding, you can see here there's a little bit more instability between those red and white dotted lines within the SKU-T chart. It's actually inhibiting some 3 cape as well, 90 joules per kilogram about, so we might have some low end tornado potential given that there is around 10 to 15 knots of 0 to 1 kilometer shear as well. This risk does look quite minor, but it's something to kind of keep an eye on just in case something pops up. Now let's go observe the GFS. We can see here that system is going to give California feet of snow, it looks like, and then move kind of into the Arizona area, giving them snow and rain. And then we can see here's Monday at 1 p.m. or no, that's 12. Sorry, from the time change, 12 p.m. We can see we have a strong low pressure system breaking out there across portions of western Kansas. The GFS goes a lot more amplified with the system, which means it's a little bit more um, faster with it. and it strengthens faster as well, which means that it's probably going to be more linear if a solution happens like that. But it looks like you may get some initial discrete convection. As we get toward 0Z, we can easily see this line of storms that starts to break out from Iowa and Missouri through Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana. This area is going to have potential for thunderstorms, probably. Maybe a stronger one or two, especially further south across maybe here. Some models are hinting at mid 60s dew points reaching around the St. Louis area, which is going to be something interesting to watch. We can see here, though, that low does weaken a little bit overnight, which is going to be interesting. And then we can see the low is going to be quite displaced from the warm sector on Tuesday, so that's one of the main factors Tuesday that's going to kind of negate the risk a little bit. Still going to be a chance for severe weather. But you can see that system pushes off into Canada, and we can see maybe a slight severe risk on Wednesday as well. Let's go look more into the environment on the GFS. Let's start at 21 Zulu time, and let's look at the dew points. So we have 60s dew points from just around St. Louis and Bloomington, Indiana, through maybe just near Kansas City southward. Looks like there's some sort of mesolow that forms along that linear system, which is something to watch. The more favorite area for severe weather with the GFS solution, though, is most likely going to be generally in here, I would say, across Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, Louisiana, maybe a little bit of Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, into Kentucky as well. And we can see here, if we look at the wind shear, we can see 500 millibar. The flow is starting to get a little bit more zonal, but it's still meridional. And meridional flow is more northward oriented flow like this. Zonal is more kind of easternly oriented flow like that. And you want more zonal flows for supercells. We still could get a couple prefrontal supercells potentially out in here, but the upper level shear on the GFS is lacking in half and ahead of the warm sector. We can see there is some sort of large scale ascent feature kind of in northern Arkansas and into Missouri there, which may enhance stuff for them. But we can see here upper level wind shear is a little bit lacking until you get to 200 millibars in some spots, which could kind of negate the risk at some point. We have a pretty strong low level jet on the GFS, which is transporting moisture upward through the Midwest states, and we have a 850 millibar low that's strengthening in Kansas and Nebraska. There could be some cold core severe weather risk. It looked better a couple days ago. It does not look as good right now. Maybe somewhere here gets the cold core set up. Looks very uncertain on where. We can see here looking at the surface cape on the GFS, it's pretty solid, 1,000 plus. If we go on to College of Dew page, though, you can actually get the mixed layer cape, which is much preferred in my opinion. I like using the mixed layer parcel more. So looking at the mixed layer cape, generally chances for severe weather would probably be in here, with the highest chances being more centered across Arkansas, Oklahoma, through Texas, into Mississippi, those kind of areas. We can see here there's a couple areas of 1,000 plus mixed layer cape, some across Louisiana there. And we can see the storm motion is going to be pretty parallel to the boundary movement. Maybe a little bit of some discreteness is possible initially, but it's pretty parallel to the boundary movement, so you're probably going to, yeah, it's very parallel. You can see 500 millibar down to the surface, not really much change. Looking into kind of some other surface points here, Theta E is going to be pretty decent for the time of the year. 330 Theta E is generally in Arkansas southward. Looks like a dynamic system too. If we go to the continental United States, we can see it's a pretty dynamic system, at least on the GFS. Looking into some soundings here, we'll take a pretty large sounding across Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, kind of observe it. So we have a very solid low level hodograph here with a lot of streamwise vorticity noticed really generally in here. But as we get up a little bit more into the atmosphere, the upper level wind shear is lacking a lot, with deep layer shear of only 40 knots observed in the sounding right here, which is quite minor. Instability is decent between the red and the white lines there. It's moderate and pretty solid for the time of year to have 1,500 surface and 1,000 mixed layer. Lapse rates are also not terrible either. As we get more into the night, we're expecting this warm sector to keep advecting northward across portions of the Ohio, Valley into the Mississippi Valley as well. Once we get toward the 3 to 60 time frame, some severe storms are going to be possible across Kentucky and Tennessee. Here is a small box sounding for that area. As we can see here, very large photographs, but we don't really have much instability between the red and the white dotted lines here, which is going to really limit the threat. But any storms that are sustained and surface-based could produce tornadoes and damaging wind gusts, and storms that are elevated could produce damaging wind gusts. We're likely going to be looking at a line of storms, potentially summoned by embedded supercells. GFS has a line of storms here. Now, note that we really don't want to trust the reflectivity solution this far out. I normally just use this for the low pressure. The Euro, on the other hand, it's got a much slower system and a much further south system. What this is going to mean is this is going to mean a higher severe chance and higher chance for discrete supercells across the warm sector. So the warm sector is probably somewhere like this. Looking at the reflectivity output, it's going haywire. We don't really care about the reflectivity outlook. We care about the environment. As we can see here, your low pressure system is generally right here. It's set at 998 millibars, and we can see your low level flow is not as strong on the Euro, which means you're not going to be having as much moisture pulled further to the north, and your warm front looks like it's sitting central Missouri through southern Illinois. That's expected to move northward as well throughout the day. Looks like the strongest low level jet is probably in Texas. And also looks like there's a decent low level jet kind of generally really in here. Across Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana. Let's go look at 850 millibars, and yeah, it's a 50, actually it's pretty strong, 55 knot low level jet. Looking at 500 millibars, you can see the flow is a little bit less meridional, it's a little bit more zonal, still not the greatest. As we get more overnight, you can see the vectors are a little bit better, especially across Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana. I think this general area, if the Euro solution would verify, would have a pretty solid chance at seeing severe weather. Tornadoes, damaging wind gusts, maybe some large hail. We'll see. Instability at this point is pretty solid. Looks like you have a dry line type feature kind of out here in Texas, maybe. And looking at the dew points here, maybe a cold front at this point. Nope, still a dry line because your temperatures change. And you might have another boundary type thing kind of out there in portions of the Ark-La-Tex region, initiating that area of supercells that the Euro has. And we could have, again, another classic southern United States thing where we get confluence bands to initiate supercells. Now, the environment on the Euro is not as good, probably because it's slightly underdoing the surface temperatures. It's got the surface temperatures really close to it, making it very stable to the dew point. I don't know if it's going to be that low. The Euro does have issues with underdoing surface temperatures sometimes, so it's something to watch. 21Z, we can take another box setting around the same general area, and we still have that problem. I have a hard time believing it's going to be pretty that warm. Now maybe there's, or that cold, maybe there's some convection that sticks around the whole day, but yeah. Looking further east, though, you can see the thermodynamic profile is better. And we can see places out here in Alabama have a lot of sunshine throughout the day, and they're still, you can see through 15Z, lots of sunshine, and you're still not getting any, you're still not getting much of a temperature change there. Low 70s, maybe, we'll see. Looking again, another model to look at here is the UK map, but first we're going to look at, kind of the general environment on Tuesday with the Euro, which it's probably going to have the surface low pretty far removed from the warm sector again. As we can see here, 60 dew points are going to characterize this environment. If we look at the surface or Mixler Cape photograph map, we can see, again, pretty solid chance for severe weather across Alabama and Mississippi. Not a bad sounding at all. It's actually got a little bit less stable than the day previous, so that's interesting in the lower levels. Photographs are going to be very enlarged. We're probably going to have that same line of storms or new storms fire and track eastward across the region. We might see them expand this 15% a little bit further north as well. We'll have to see. Looks like the warm sector on the Euro is pretty big, and it even gets up into Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana. So we'll have to watch that. Looks like the Euro even has a little bit of a severe threat in the morning in Indiana and Illinois as well, which is something to watch out for. Looks like that low pressure system brings a heavy snowstorm to Iowa and brings some strong storm activity for Illinois as well. Dew points up into the upper 50s. Looks like it's going to be a line of storms as you do not have much change in your flow. Your cape is distributed okay. Very low top storms at 6 kilometers or so, which is extremely low topped. We can see here 60s dew points make it up into portions of Indiana and even northwest Ohio on the Euro run. If we take a large box sounding across the area, we can see definitely some stronger storms possible if the Euro solution pans out. So I would say for Tuesday, you want a slower system if you want severe weather across the Midwest. The GFS, on the other hand, does not really have this happening. If I tab over to this, open it up on a different tab, my bad. If we tab over to this, we can see, yeah, the GFS is a lot more to the east with the low pressure, so you're not advecting moisture further north. It also looks like convection blocks off the moisture as well. So the GFS would be really solely a severe threat for probably the southern United States, as it blocks everything off further to the north. Here's a look at the UK Met. You can kind of see here. Let's watch this warm sector as it advects northward on the UK Met, and we can see here quickly overraids the area. Dew points getting into the upper 60s, might be overdone a little bit. The warm sector gets all the way into kind of central Illinois, and then we can see the warm sector gets even into Ohio there. The next day, the warm sector is still very large, and looks like there's even severe potential on Wednesday on the Euro or the UK Met as well. I'm just going to take a look at that. So yeah, very enlarged photographs across the Virginia area on Wednesday. Something to watch, though. The UK Met is probably not correct on that. Could be correct on the northern extent with the moisture. We'll have to see. Uh, let's see what the low-level jet strength is. That's going to kind of determine this. Pretty strong, so that's probably why it goes further to the north. Again, looking at the GEFS, we can see pretty amplified system, which is why it kind of strengthens fast. And the Euro goes a lot more zonal, so more of a discrete look. All hazards are going to be possible next week. Stay safe if you're going to be traveling, and I will see y'all in the next one.